forget it was my heart you were playing with? You made the rules to your own game. So your heart of ice, so I brought fire to learn it all just burns the same. Burns the same. Never forget whose heart you are playing with. No more rules to your game, half games. Build a house of cards and play with fire. Look around, there's no one left to play. Left to play. Do you think of me? Now the flames turn cold and the fight is over. What do you think of me when these memories come as the winds turn colder? Do you think of me? Did you forget it was my heart you were playing with? You made the rules to your own game. So your heart of ice, so I brought fire to learn it all just burns the same. Burns the same. Do you think of me? Now the flames turn cold and the fight is over. What do you think it means when these memories come as the winds turn colder? Do you think of me? Now the flames turn cold and the fight is over. What do you think it means when these memories come as the winds turn colder? Do you think of me? All that could have been. Where could we be? Do you think of me?
All right, guys. Good evening, and thank you for being here. This is Lady Freedom here. I'm coming at you with another raw narrative. Glad you guys are here tonight. I wish I was sharing some better information. Um, I wanted to start out with that song so we can kind of get people in. I know I haven't been doing my regular intro lately, and I wanted to play that back just so you guys could see the last time that Sebastian was caught on camera, right? They're pulling out of the Texas Roadhouse. The timestamp is on there, everything. So that way, if people need to go back and look, they can. Tonight, we're going to go over the DCS documents that have been shared. Hello, Real Sisters in Crime. Good to see you. And welcome in, everyone, even people that are in the bushes. This is a very important live, and I appreciate you guys being here. And thank you, Witchy. Yeah, exactly. And, kids are kids. And we also remember that Sebastian just turned 15. Hey, Gail, thank you so much for being here. I saw that you were one of our first chatters. So thank you so much. Hey, Alicia Hotwells. And my PTSD and Brock, so good to see you. And Poppy Love is here with our beautiful witchy mama. And Bo is here. So good to see Bo and Valley Gal. and little Miss Sharon. Hey, little Miss Sharon. I'm going backwards here. And Seth is always good to see you. And let's see here. We got Cinderella. Hello, Cinderella. And let's see. I want to make sure I get everybody. I really appreciate you guys hitting the like button and, just being here to chat. It really helps out with the channel and keeping it going. So thank you guys so very, very much. Hey, Holly. So good to see our friend Holly and Kiki. Hey, Kiki. Kiki's cleaning. I saw you too, Kiki. And also, Witchy Mama, thank you so much for always putting in these disclaimers. Guys, there's a national child abuse hotline that I wanted to start out with tonight. This is a phone number for the National Child Abuse Hotline. It's 1-800-422-4453. And you can chat with them, you can call them. They are available 24/7. So if you believe that you've seen abuse, or if you're a teen and you're dealing with abuse in your home, you can call them. And if even if you think maybe, because sometimes when you live in an environment like that, you may not understand that there are different types of abuse, and you may not understand if you are being abused or not, but maybe you might think you have a little inkling. And that's when you should call so they can talk to you, because there are counselors available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they do not charge you to talk to them. They are available for you to speak to. If you're a mother that is witnessing a stepfoot putting his hands on his kids, Katie, you can call this number and not pretend like it's not happening, because you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. And so I do believe tonight you will get that public lashing that you so well deserve, Katie. It's absolutely despicable, and you want to act like a victim. You want to attack other people and deny your actions. But here's the thing, Katie, there's no one else to blame besides you. And everything that we thought that you did to Sebastian, you allowed for it to happen to Sebastian, we were on the right track. And I think that really bothered you, because sooner or later you knew that the truth was going to come to light, but you were fighting against it. And so you played the reversal of offender and tried to play the victim. But Katie, you're the offender, and so is your husband, who you weren't worried about, that you showed no concern that he was treating Sebastian this way. And again, shame on you. Shame on you. There's a $50,000 reward through the FBI for information leading to the whereabouts of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. Hey, Jen. The messages with Brian Thrasher appear to know, quote, LE doesn't want Sebastian found either, end quote. Thanks, Jen, for pointing that out. And that's why I picked that tonight. That's why I picked that song and that video, because I was like so appalled to hear about that, and I definitely did share it with Jen at that time, because I was it was unnerving. That was right before we were going to go to the gathering, too, by the way. So I was going to be traveling back to Tennessee to be at that gathering. And to hear them say that, if I'm going to say I was a little uneasy, I'd be lying to you guys. Because I was more than a little uneasy about the fact that a big organization like the United Cajun Navy was running scared. Hey, Paige. And all of us women were going to be out there fighting for Sebastian, standing next to Seth and Jeff, of course. But um, I'd be lying if I thought that I felt good about going there, um, because it's felt and it has been felt, and there's been threats and there's been, um, again, attacks, denial, right? And it's a heavy denial, as in we're so stupid, and it's a heavy denial of we're going to have to apologize to them. Well, I'm here to tell you tonight there will be no apologies made, and if I was them, I'm just shocked that they haven't at least came out and apologized for this, because I'm not the only one that is posting this or talking about it or has talked about it. It's on national news. And if you think that those people didn't do their homework, I'd probably say they did. It is so pathetic, SA officer. It is absolutely horrific. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. Grotesque, maybe. Hey, Juju. So we're going to get into it. If anybody says anything about Seth, just kick him out. I don't have any time for that. I don't. Because he's not the one that should be on trial in the court of public opinion, in my opinion. And this is night court here. So I'm the judge over here. He should never, ever be shamed for any of this that I'm about to read to you. As a matter of fact, he's initiated this because Sebastian hasn't had justice. And justice delayed is justice denied. And she is no better than her mother. Fruit doesn't fall far, but I think FBI needs to talk to Brian. I think so too. I think that they need to talk to any of those creators that Chris and Katie have talked to, because they're blabbing their mouths to them and always trying to do the damage control so they can go out and do their show. You know? And thank you, Witchy Mama. Guys, Sebastian is still missing. It's an open and ongoing investigation. So if you see anything, if you have seen anything in the past, if you know something, or if you think you see Sebastian, call absolutely right away and say his name. Say, Sebastian Rogers, is that you? Call his name. Guys, we don't forget our names. Okay, so even if somebody's telling him that he changed his name, right? We've heard of that before, where people have kidnapped people, right? And that's what the FBI flyer says. It says kidnapped. So if he's been being held somewhere, okay, then he maybe they changed his appearance, maybe they changed his name. We don't know that. But he's always going to know himself as himself, right? If somebody says Trish, I turn around. Somebody says Trisha, I turn around. That's my name. Don't wear it out. Isn't that what we used to say? So, yeah, Jen, it's spot on. He needs to talk to, they need to talk to the FBI, because the FBI is the one that needs to hear about what is going on, because you can't tell the people that are doing this stuff to, that it's going on. They already know. They've known, guys, and this is a part 4 to, these lawsuits. They knew the whole time. There was no way that they didn't know, you guys. Otherwise, I mean, the C Pit, that team, right? They knew since 2022 when it began. It all began, and we're going to get into that, like I said. Hello, Heather Marie. So good to see you. She says, love and light from Southern Indiana. Hey, we need love and light always. Always. How are we going to show the darkness if we don't have that light? Thank you so much, Heather Marie. And it is. It's so concerning. It is so concerning, Jen. Don't worry, we have no time for it either. And, I agree. I agree. Lady Freedom, can you remind real quick about Brian Thrasher? Sure. Let me get Katie's. This is what I think of Katie now forever. By the way, this is you. Oh, and this one too. Real cute. Real cute. So he said, oh, it's right at the end here too. Sorry, I put it in the beginning, but I also put it at the end. And again, at flight is no longer a part of this, but this was a video that I made, and I wanted to show you guys it again because that song, and because I like the way the video flowed for this, right? But At Night's not involved. There's only a $50,000 reward for Sebastian through the FBI, guys. FBI needs to be notified. FBI needs to be revisiting this and speaking to those who have knowledge. And we know that they have knowledge, right? So, Brian Thrasher, he is the vice president of the United Cajun Navy. At Night Media had released that graphic that I showed you guys, that it's in here, and they're like, you know what I mean? I put that, going together with Jog the Bounty Hunter and the United Cajun Navy, to find Sebastian. But nobody's found him yet. And it breaks my heart. It really does. And I hope that they understand that it's nothing personal, but it just really upsets me because they could have done so much better, and they have the resources that we don't, and they've failed. And when it's a bunch of beautiful women out there standing up for what's right and they're not willing to, it really upsets me too. Because Dog the Bounty Hunter could have came to any of those gatherings, even one of them. Kind of reminds me of Chris and Katie dodging out, even though it's worse for them since they are Sebastian's quote parents. Yes, he needs to be questioned as to why he is saying this about LE not wanting Sebastian found. What the hell? Now we know why. Because maybe he knew. Maybe he had some intel. Maybe they shared some things with him. And they absolutely need to talk to him, Jen. They do. These questions should be asked, right? And need to be answered, but they're not. And it just like solidifies that they're not doing their job. I know, SI officer. It's so terrible. And whoever said it's bad, it's so bad. Yeah, that's an understatement. Kiki says, Lady, you're doing good. I know it's hard to hold it together. It's so sad, Kiki, because this is why a lot of people that are so close to and have covered this case, it's hard to read this about Sebastian. It really is. And how many people had knowledge of him being put through this? Again, I want everybody to think about Sebastian for a second and how he had to come home. I mean, you wonder why someone's stomach hurts. It's not only because they're being hit, it's because they're afraid they're going to be hit. You know? Thank you, Sandy. And I know, guys, I'm more sensitive than I bet probably 95% of the population in general, not to mention YouTube. But it just, like I said, when you're hearing it, it's one thing. When you're having to tell it, it's another thing. And I do envy those who can compartmentalize better than I. Hey, Deborah Dixon, good to see you. She says, hope you're getting better, my lovely. I am. I am getting better. But, of course, when I'm over here trying to not cry and crying, I'm going to be sniffling again. But no, I think I got like 4 more antibiotics to take and I should be back to normal. If not, I'll be back to the doctor. Um, I mean, every day for what he's gone through, every day, SI officer. Never should he have ever had to deal with that. Hello, Miss Ann. Good to see ya. So, I mean, it's unfair. And, that's the thing in the beginning. I was thinking Sebastian did have enough reasons to run away. He did. And maybe if I was law enforcement, I would think that too if I knew what they knew. So that's my thing. Let me take this sound off real quick and I'll just play this and pause it. So he says, this is Brian Thrasher again, president of the vice president of the United Cajun Navy, says we have analyzed tons of information on that case. The problem is that everybody wants that boy to be found except for the people closest to him. Okay. The problem is that everybody wants the boy to be found except for the people closest to him. Vice President, United Cajun Navy, Brian Thrasher. He was on Nancy Grace in the beginning. We saw him and he said that he was working with Seth. And then they were talking about the federal property that was being searched at that time. Okay. Well, Seth wants him found, in my opinion, says the writer. But I do understand the harassment that the Proud Feet have and are doing. Okay. I'm not the blue, right? But this is the person talking with Brian and he's in the gray. There are elements of law enforcement that don't want him found either, says Brian Thrasher. I respect your candor and I respect your coming forward with that information. This person says WTF. He says, trust me, it's a rabbit hole for us to get involved directly again. We would have to do a security analysis, but we are regularly in touch with people who are still on the case. So he's assuring her that they're still working on it, but it's a major breach of security for them to come. In his opinion, they would need an analysis first, whatever that is for them. I don't know. He says, she says, well, I'll be honest. I don't completely understand that statement. Of course, I am not privy to all of the information, and I do not understand that TBI and FBI, who has a $50,000 reward, do not want him found. Okay? I don't understand that either. That offends every sensibility I have. Every single last one of them. And it's tap dancing on my last nerve because I showed this to you guys before the gathering and this was said before the gathering. And it's bothered me ever since. And I just don't like to be fanatical and be like, blah, 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 every single day I'm up here. Yes. Yes. And they are great. They do great things and they find people, Jen. Brian is the vice president and spokesperson for United Cajun Navy. He's vocal now on Nolan Wells' case. Thank you, Jen. They're looking for people all the time. And I need other YouTubers to take a screenshot of these things and I need you guys to help me with it. I need you guys to spread this around. I need you guys to make a short. Because this is absolutely the real deal. And this was absolutely sent over to the appropriate people that needed to have it. Okay, but now I need everybody to spread it around now that we know what we know about Sebastian's case. Okay, back to dead eyes over here, but she's covered them up. Okay, I got to get her off of my screen before I get really angry. All right, next, let's get into this. All right, and I tried to make it really, really big for you guys this time because I know it's so hard to see. They make it so teeny tiny. Now, this is going to be pertaining to Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' father, Seth, and a lawsuit that's been filed against the Department of Children Services in Tennessee. It's a Tennessee state agency. Okay. And Seth Rogers, individually and as a father, a next friend of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, who is a minor. And then it's mentioning names, right? So Margie Quinn, in her official capacity as commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Children's Services, and in her individual capacity. Leslie Keel Ritchie, in her individual capacity. Laura Boswell, in her individual capacity. Amira J. Walker, in her individual capacity. And also names some John and Jane Does, 1 through 15, who are not mentioned in this lawsuit as of yet. Okay. Thank you, Real Sisters in Crime. Yes, you guys need to cover Sebastian. Oh my gosh, I would love to come in and see that. I bet you ladies will break it down. You know, because and there's so much. I'm working on getting some videos together, and I'm gonna try to not put um any like copyrighted music in the background to make them more shareable, right? Because the statements are really what we need to key in on, and Chris and Katie's statements that we can refer back to these documents with and pull some of that in and do some comparison is really going to be something that will be compelling, I think, and impactful. And I love for people to share it out. But if I put that in the background, then, I don't want y'all to get hit with a copyright. So, hey, Microdot. Microdot says Cajun Navy and so many other groups perform wonderful work out there looking for people. They sure do. All of them do, guys. And it's just, I just have to be real with my commentary to you guys and how I feel. Because otherwise I feel like I would be lying to you guys. I mean, I just, I just wish that we had a little bit of better grasp on that, and people would come forward to like FBI and talk to them, as Jen was saying, because that's the only way that um, we're ever going to be able to bring the light to the dark. We have to do it too, right? Because otherwise, we're not doing anything about it. Um, this is First Amendment complaint for damages and injunctive relief, demand for a jury trial, right? Which is the same in the other paperwork. The preliminary statement. 1. The civil rights actions arises from Tennessee Department of Children's Services, DCS. A failure to protect Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, a minor child, a 15-year-old child with autism spectrum disorder, severe combined type ADHD, and a 6q27 chromosome deletion syndrome, who vanished from his mother and stepfather's house in Hendersonville, Tennessee on February 26th, 2024. Number 2. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers is not an ordinary missing child. He is a profoundly vulnerable minor who has multiple documented disabilities, a history of sexual abuse, and he has been reported to and investigated by the Tennessee DCS, and a home life that DCS's own records show was marked by physical abuse, emotional degradation, and a stepfather whom neighbors reported, quote, hated the child and wanted the child to die, end quote. DCS has formally determined that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was, quote, at serious and imminent risk of removal from their home, end quote. Okay, and we've talked extensively about this portion. Okay. And I hate that for Sebastian. And I think that Sebastian deserved way better than that. And there's no reason on God's green earth that he should have ever had to live for one more second in the house with Christopher Stankfoot and his big pig hands putting them on him and his big pig mouth and lips talking all of the shit he was to Sebastian. End quote. So sick of this crap from them. All right. Number 3, DCS investigated Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' household on 2 separate occasions based on allegations of sexual and physical abuse. Does everybody have a barf bag? Or would you like a bucket? Because maybe we just need to pass out buckets. Yeah, sounds like CP was the one with the homicidal thoughts. Holly, bam. You know, that's it. That is exactly exactly 100. Yes, Trishy. Gigi, so good to see you. Hey Gigi, nasty pig hands and lips. I wish we had some bigger lips like Chris Proudfoot has. You know, those nasty, disgusting. Likes to talk shit to Sebastian. Yeah, a 5-gallon, Alicia, would be sufficient for me because this is so, again, grotesque. Kiki, how people cannot see this or that they won't speak of it is unreal to me too. Like they don't care that Sebastian endured this. Okay, they don't care. It could slap them in the face and they would say, "No, duh, no." I mean, forget everything else and stand up for Sebastian. Forget everything else and stand up for Sebastian. You say that you're on Sebastian's team and there are no teams. Did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said? DCS investigated Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' household on 2 separate occasions based on allegations of sexual and physical abuse. Okay? Guess what? There are teams, and it's Team Sebastian. Because if anybody doesn't feel anything but sorry for Sebastian, then you're not on his team. Period. I don't care where you think you fall morally, righteously, ethically, or whatnot, because you need to reprioritize your ethics if you are putting anybody above Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. I am sickened. On both occasions, DCS closed its cases, finding, quote, no concerns, end quote, and, quote, no services needed, end quote. Did you guys hear what I said? Even though there were two separate occasions and there were allegations of sexual and physical abuse, Sebastian was meant to stay there. And they were saying that there's no concerns. They're saying that there's no services needed. How would you like to be Sebastian in that position? I wouldn't like to be with Sebastian in that position. I wouldn't like to ever be in that position because that poor little guy, he's sitting there thinking to himself, nobody's coming to help me, right? Because they came there and maybe he thought they might be helping. Maybe he was scared. Maybe he was afraid that if they left him there, he was really going to get it. Because I know that's what my ass would be thinking. Oh, here we go. Because I mean, they leave me here, I'm done for. In my opinion, all manipulation and threats and hush money. It really could be, SI officer. I like to think that that would never happen, but it's plain to see that they always knew about this. That they knew about all of this. They knew about all of this. They had proof that Sebastian didn't just go poof. This is their proof. This is what they could have leveraged, but they can't when they're directly involved in libel. They're never going to do that because they're trying to, cover their own asses, self-preservation. Despite documenting alarming evidence that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was living in a dangerous and abusive environment. Number 4, approximately 9 months after DCS closed its second case, after they closed the second case, concluding that, quote, no services were needed, end quote, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers disappeared. He had never been found, right? Or he has never been found, right? Like, not even where we know where he might be, that we can follow at least a trail of clues to somewhere that he could be. We have no idea where he is because he's never been found and they've never told us anything because they don't have an adequate investigation to go off of, in my opinion. They dropped the ball. DCS's own records established that it knew this child was in danger, documented that danger in malicious detail, formally determined he was at an imminent risk of removal, and then did nothing. This inaction constitutes deliberate indifference. Guys, that's going to be one of our big words that we have in here. The key words, rather, that we need to pay attention to. Deliberate indifference. Because they knew, but they did nothing. So they deliberately didn't do a damn thing or care or uphold their duty, uphold their responsibility. None of that. They did none of it. Okay? So this inaction constitutes deliberate indifference to Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' constitutional rights and directly contributed to the circumstances of his disappearance. So again, because they didn't do anything about these cases, they're showing that deliberate indifference. And again, it's a contributing factor. And this is something that we've all known for quite some time. But there's been so much noise and so much chatter and so much of people gaslighting, that it was up for debate, literally up for debate, when really the facts of the matter are right here. Sebastian was in a very dangerous home and dealing with horrible situations. And guys, we're about to hear from Chris and Katie Proudfoot in this filing. So buckle up, but make sure you have your bucket. Jurisdiction and venue. This court has subject matter jurisdiction pursuant to 28 USC 1331 and 1343. Supplemental jurisdiction over state laws examines, excuse me, supplemental jurisdiction over state law claims exist under the 28 USC 1367 and 7. Venue is proper in this direct. I'm not going to be able to read to my watch. Um, Venue is proper in this district pursuant to 28 USC 1391 because this district is a judicial district in which a sub, sustainable part of the events or omissions giving rise to the claims occurred. The parties. So, plaintiff is Seth Rogers, who is Sebastian's biological father, and he resides in Clarksville. He brings this action individually and as father and next of friend to Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. We did talk about that in the other filing because Sebastian is a minor child and Seth is his father. He is able to sue on behalf of his son and himself. Okay? That's right. Don't let the bastards grind you down, Seth Rogers. I love that, Deborah Dixon. Woo! We need to pin that. We need to pin that. I don't know what's going on in chat because I can't pay attention to both. I can barely read tonight. If you need help being your voice, let me know. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. See, I mean, Seth has a lot of love, because he's showing a lot of love to his son, Sebastian, being the next friend to Sebastian, right? Because he has to be. And he does not want to have to be that person. He just wants his son back. That's it. He wants Sebastian to be found so he knows that he's safe, he's home. But I'm here to tell you, every time he went back to his mom's house, he was in danger. Poor Sebastian. Number 9, Defendant Tennessee Department of Children's Services, DCS, is a state agency of the state of Tennessee, established pursuant to Tennessee Code 37-5101 and is responsible for administering child welfare services throughout the state, including the investigation of reports of child abuse and neglect, the state and supervision of children in foster care, and the provision of services to children and families. DCS maintains its principal office at 505 Diederich Street in Nashville, Tennessee 37243, and operates through regional offices and caseworkers across the state of Tennessee. At all times relevant to this action, DCS acted under color of state law and through its agents, employees, and representatives who were acting within the scope of their employment and authority. Okay? Excuse me. This is just outlining who all this encompasses as the defendant named Tennessee Department of Children and Family Services, DCS, right? They call it DCS Some of us know it as CPS. It's widely called that on the YouTube streets. But we know that the different state departments are called different things. DCFS, right? It's sometimes, um, what was the other one I've heard of? Um, in Harmony's case. Either way, shout out your freaking agency. I don't know, guys. They're called all different things, but a lot of times it'll be referred to like, well, here's CPS, but DCS is the Department of Children Services in Tennessee. So we're going to start out with Margie Quinn. She's the commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Children and Family Services, and she is sued in her official capacity for prospective injunction and in her individual capacity for damages to the extent she personally participated in establishing or maintaining the policies, outcomes, and practices that cause the constitutional violations alleged herein. Okay, so let's check out Margie Quinn. Um, and I'm just going to swipe this because this will be easier to just copy that and pull it over. Because I do want you guys to put a name with the face along with me, because that's what I like to do just to see who we're dealing with. And of course, I do want to kind of deep dive into this. Um, yeah, here we go. We got her. And let me share this. All right. So here's a bunch of pictures of Margie Quinn. All right. And you can kind of see her there. And here it is. excuse me. Here it is. Margie Quinn appointed as her new commissioner, as a new commissioner for Department of Children's Services. Okay, looks like a normal human to me. Although I think that we'll find her actions are anything but if she's listed in these documents. Aw, thank you, Sharon Marlowe, so much. Sharon Marlowe says, too many people got involved in this shit this shit show covering up instead of helping. Sebastian, now God says it's my turn to turn on the lights. God wins. Yes. And Sharon, I think that is a very profound statement. God wins. Because as we're going to find out, Chris and Katie Proudfoot thought that they were going to fool everybody. Thank you, DHS. I wanted to say DHHS, but I thought that was the human services. So thank you, Cinderella. But yeah, thank you, Sharon, for that, because it's the truth. It is the God's honest truth that God wins, no matter how much we try to manipulate the situation, guys. That goes for all of us. But you got Chris with his delusions of grandeur, you know, and all of it. And you guys are so sweet. Thank you for everybody, thanking Sharon as well. Thank you guys so much. Um, so this is the lady that we're going to be talking about tonight, just so everybody can get a good look. I'm sorry, that's terrible to say. But I like to put the face with the name. So that's who we're talking about. And she is being sued in a couple of professional capacity and in her um, personal capacity. All right. And 11, the defendant, Leslie Keeley Ritchie, was at all relevant times a team leader at DCS, Mid Cumberland region. Ritchie conducted the administrative review. Uh, uh, the administrative review on the physical abuse investigation. The case ID number is 1509-540-6577, and closed that case as, quote, no services were needed, end quote. So Miss Leslie here, Ritchie, also Seth's attorney's last name, uh, Miss Ritchie here, or Mrs. Ritchie, said there were no services needed. So let's take a gander at her and see who she is. Um, and I'll make sure we get the right one because I'll put in all of her info here. She's a team leader. All right. Good. I mean, good going. I just, you're the team leader, yet you said no services were needed in an environment where Sebastian is absolutely, oh, look, Pacer comes up right away. Okay. Let's see. See, and some of these people are going to be harder and harder to find. Um, let's see. All right, so this is from Facebook. 13 years ago. Oh, but I don't want to show the wrong person because there's a couple of different ones. Oh no, that looks like the same gal. Oh no, it's not. All right, I might not be able to show you guys her just yet because I just want to make sure that I get the right person. All right, so but either way, she is the one that decided that there was no services needed, and we're going to get into um, the fact that, I mean, I don't have to be a social worker or to have gone to school for that, to recognize that when a neighbor is alleging that there's homicidal thoughts towards a child from one of the parents in the household, um, that's concerning. I mean, that you would ever allow for something like that, is just so odd to me, and I'm, like I said, I'm just at a loss with that. Um, it's really concerning. All right, so she did conduct that administrative review, and she also participated in the 2022 sexual abuse investigation. 2022 sexual abuse investigation. Did you guys hear that? Because I know I was jabbering for a second there. Yep, exactly, show poodles. I got all that info today too, by the way, um, from a lovely person. Yeah, Margie Quinn was appointed by Governor Lee. She began work on September 1st, 2022. Mm-hmm. Thank you, show poodles, for that. Yeah, so that puts in some things into perspective here, guys. And remember, in 2022, that's where we start with these abuse allegations. Okay. And that case ID number is going to be 14884100703, which provided her with actual knowledge of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' history and vulnerabilities. She is sued in her individual capacity. Leslie Kill Ritchie. Okay. Defendant Laura Boswell. I have a lot of information on Laura Boswell, and I've had a lot of information on Laura Boswell for a while now. And, lo and behold, some people are making those big connections now. And so here we go. Laura Boswell was at all relevant times a case manager at DCS, Mid Cumberland region, just like our friend Leslie here. Boswell conducted the face to face interviews with Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, the Proudfoot family, and Seth Rogers on both the 2022 sexual abuse investigation and the 2023 physical abuse investigation. She personally documented Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' disclosures of fear, abuse, and trauma. In the 2023 physical abuse investigation, she failed to interview Rogers as Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, right? She failed to interview Seth Rogers, okay, at Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' other legal parent as his other legal parent with joint physical and legal custody, and participated in the decision to close that case as, quote, no services were needed without protective action. She is sued in her individual capacity. Okay. Laura Boswell, caseworker, DCS Mid Cumberland region. Defendant Amira J. Walker was at all relevant times a supervisor at DCS. Mid Cumberland region. Walker approved the closure of case ID 14884-10703, the one we just mentioned, as administrative closure. That's a quote. So that means that you could see it on the paperwork that she deemed it an administrative closure on November 15th, 2022. She is sued in her individual capacity. Now, we know that on November 3rd of 2022, there were some proceedings. Okay? There were some proceedings. Hey, Betty H. All right. And hey, Babs. So, with that being said, it only took them not even, we'll just say, what is it? Sorry, I'm horrible at math. 12 days to close it out. And to say that there was no reason for anything else, and it was that there was an administrative closure. So because she's a supervisor, she was the one that approved the closure of the physical abuse allegations and sexual abuse allegations. Okay? Because the physical abuse here that's the case number with 1509, right? And then this is 1488. Just to kind of put it in perspective, guys, because I know this is going to be a lot to kind of grasp onto. So Amira was a administrative closure. Now there's some defendants, the John Does, the Jane Does, okay? And they're not named, obviously, That's how we know that, are DCS employees, supervisors, and officials whose identities are presently unknown, but who have participated in the investigation, supervision, and the closure of DCS cases involving Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, and or who established, maintained, or ratified the policies and practices that led to the constitutional violations alleged herein. Plaintiffs will amend this complaint to identify these defendants when their identities are ascertained. Okay, so as soon as we know who they are, they will be named because there were others involved. Factual allegations. A. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' history of abuse and vulnerability were known to DCS. So we have Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, a minor child, was born to Seth Rogers and Katie Proudfoot. His parents separated, and Katie married Christopher Proudfoot. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers lived primarily with his mother and stepfather. 16. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, severe combined type ADHD, and a 6q27 chromosome deletion syndrome. He had an individualized education plan, an IEP, and a Section 504 plan requiring his school to provide him with accommodations because he was a student with disabilities. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was in the behavioral program at his school. He received therapy 3 times per week through Mental Health Cooperative, was on Concerta, saw a neurologist at Vanderbilt, and was scheduled to begin ABA therapy at the time of his disappearance. His therapist reported that as a consequence of prior sexual abuse, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was, quote, sexually aggressive, end quote, and suffered, quote, frequent bathroom accidents, end quote. Law enforcement reported that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers had, quote, some homicidal thoughts, end quote. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' multiple disabilities made him uniquely vulnerable to abuse, neglect, and exploitation, and required DCS to exercise heightened care and to provide reasonable accommodations under the Americans with Disabilities Act when assessing his safety and needs. 1,000,000%. Okay, we have B. DCS case ID 1488, the sexual abuse investigation, September through November of 2022. Okay, I'm just going to go over to chat really quick because this, okay. Thank you, Witchy Mama. No, this case should have ever had to go this far. Never. Never. Hey, Bama. If Karen Reed can bring the corrupt Boston, Massachusetts corrupt officials, Seth, you can definitely take down the pissy little town in corrupt Tennessee. Who do Proudfoots know at DHS? Um, that's a good question, Trishy, because it seems like somebody called in a favor, doesn't it? You know, Laura lie. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. We're about to know, Miss Babs. We're about to know. You know, and they all knew. They all knew. There are so many that are going down for Sebastian's disappearance. I'm here for it from the beginning to the day of justice. And Babs, I really never thought it was going to get this far either. I didn't. I thought, wow, they're going to have these guys, right? I mean, it's just the feeling that you get from them, right? You're waiting for the perp walk to come, you know? It is. It is. I mean, they're acting like a bunch of ass clowns. You know. No, this is naming a 2022 incident that was spanning from September through November of 2022. That's why I wanted to stop, Trishy, because I wanted to let that sink in a little bit. Betty H says, my heart goes out to Seth and Sebastian. This case has every sign of what happened to Sebastian. Yeah, it does. It does. Oh, I know. This is just a little bit. This is just a little bit of it. Bab says, God loves Sebastian. We have no idea of how much abuse he went through from his mom and stepdad. It makes me so angry. It makes me so angry too. It's absolutely despicable. Kiki says, Babs, I used to say that in my opinion, and everyone told me there's no way they can do that without a paper trail. Well, here we go. I mean, nobody listens to me either, Kiki, if it makes you feel better. I know you guys are here. I'm just saying, I feel sometimes like I'm like, I know. Well, we've been on CPS's ass for a while, or DCS, if I mean, and you and I have talked and stuff, and I mean, I think it's just because people don't want to believe in such corruption. And I really believe that too. I just joke around and say nobody listens to me. But uh I mean, because it's very unbelievable. It's very unbelievable that they would act this way and leave Sebastian like this, hanging like this, right? Whoever would have thought, you know? Yeah. Yeah, we are going to need a couple hotels, block off some rooms. Mm, 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 mm. In my opinion, when Nina told what CP done to her before his daughter was born, that told me all I needed to see. Yeah, Betty, I'm right there with you. I had a very strong reaction to Nina and her story, and for good reason, because I know exactly what she went through, unfortunately. Not with the baby. Thank God. Diane Miller, good to see you. Good to see you. So, September through November of 2022, with the case number that we have here through DCS, there was an essay investigation on or about September 28th, 2022 at approximately 6:33 p.m. A call was placed to DCS Child Abuse Hotline. The intake was screened as a priority 3 with allegations of sexual abuse against an unknown perpetrator. The alleged child victim was Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. The intake reported that on September 28th, 2022, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers disclosed to a school professional that 2 years earlier, while living in California with his mother, he experienced SA by another child, child B. Specifically, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers disclosed that child B would, quote, make Sebastian put his mouth on the child's private parts, and both he and the child would be or would put their private parts in each other's backsides. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers stated he was, quote, forced to do this by child B, end quote, and that it occurred in the upstairs of his home. That it occurred in the upstairs of his home in California and happened several times. Okay. So it happened several times in California, and he was still feeling the effects of what he endured. Because as Seth has told us before, and as we've covered on this channel, that Sebastian didn't get the proper help that he needed. Because, in my opinion, it seems that Chris and Katie wanted to sweep it under the rug. And as we're going to find out, and as we have found out more we're going to find out more about it, but we have knowledge of already that Sebastian was afraid that he was going to get in trouble from nasty stepfoot because he was abused. Okay. So again, this is solidifying what Seth has told us, that even though all of this happened in California, Sebastian never got the proper help that he needed. And so on September 28th of 2022, Sebastian went to the school professional and told them about this. Okay. Number 20. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers reported that child B was his, quote, only friend, end quote, and that child B threatened that if Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers didn't perform these acts, or if he told anyone, they would not be friends anymore. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers reported that the abuse occurred when he was 10 or 12 and happened several times over weeks. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers told the school professional that after he told her she was the, quote, only adult who knew besides my mom, end quote. Okay. So he confided in this person. 22 says the intake further documented that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers stated he was disgusted with himself about what happened and that it had gotten much more difficult to pretend like it did not happen. Okay? That breaks my heart so badly. So badly. And if it doesn't faze you, then you have problems. If it doesn't phase you, then I don't have any help for you. You need to call somebody who's a professional. Thank you, Babs. And we do love you, Sebastian. And we're going to find you. No, it's okay, guys. I know it's hard to understand the way the filing kind of is written, but they had to classify that call as a sexual abuse call, right? Thankfully, Sebastian has a voice. He could tell what was going on, and then Seth stepped in when Sebastian's voice was not being listened to. Thank you, Microdot. Yeah, and Seth was saying that he wasn't getting the proper help, you know. I mean, and then he was also having behaviors that were a direct result of what he went through. He was calling out for help, Kiki. Yeah, it was bugging him bad, right? And I also want to say that anybody who has ever had to do something like that, it's not your fault. And you're not the disgusting one. They are. There's a tremendous amount of shame that comes from having to endure something like that. Jilly says, did his mom get told by the school? At this point, basically, he's saying that his mom had knowledge of what had happened, and that he talked to her, and then now this school counselor. Oh my God, Miss Anne, I've heard a lot of bad stories like that too. Mm-mm-mm. She knew. She knew Deborah. Exactly. Bama says it shows just what damage that child had. 3 weeks seems like a lot of therapy. Or 3 times a week, it seems like a lot of therapy. Well, and he was really trying to work through some really heavy issues too. You know, I do. Jilly, it's just my channel name without the apostrophe. Just Lady Freedom's Raw Narratives at gmail.com. And you can click the link from my page. Sebastian is not to blame for what happened to him. What a small little man. Yeah. Yeah. No, and he's not to blame. He's not to blame, Cinderella. And, it's easy for somebody to say that, don't feel disgusted by that, what you had to do, because obviously Sebastian was wrong and he didn't want to do it. Um, Kiki says, Lady, we have been here so many hours, a lot of us fighting for this child, and God will prevail. He never fails us or forsakes us. Remember that, especially Seth and Sebastian. Yeah, Kiki, and I appreciate that a lot. I just feel so horrible about this. You know, it's again something where you just don't even want to be right. You don't want to be right. So, well, make sure you guys drop your links for your channels too, because Katie totally neglected Sebastian and left him deal with all this on his own. I hope she rots. And Chris, well, I hope that they do too. Babs, I'm fully disgusted by them. That's who I'm disgusted by. I'm proud of Sebastian for coming forward, like you guys are saying. Um, And I feel for his situation, what he had to go through, because that's not a friend. A friend doesn't do that. And it makes me very pissed off that Katie would allow for the kids to be unattended for so long. Also, where was Katie when this was happening? Right? It's happening in Chris and Katie's household. So where were they? Because here's Sebastian feeling bad and guilty, but where? I mean, they're the adults. Where were they? You're telling me that kind of stuff is happening in your house and you have no idea. Sick fucks, in my opinion. Betty says, I went through an essay from my blood dad. Oh, hon. God. I'm so sorry, Betty. I'm not going to read that one out loud. I'm so sorry. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm just so appalled that people will treat other people that way. I mean, I don't really even care if it's a kid that does it to a kid. Then something needs to be figured out on why that child's acting that way, because they're probably having that happen to them. But why would you just allow for all of that? Yeah, thank God for this attorney. That's right. Katie knew, Babs. Katie knew for sure. She knew for sure. That's why I just can't give him any kind of grace at the moment, or probably ever. I hope so too, Microdot. I hope it helps Nina. She needs to get it to where little Faith doesn't ever have to go over there again without supervision, unfortunately. Yeah, Bama, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And this is just, the tip of the iceberg from what we will find out, because the discovery phase will shed a lot of light on what's been really going on. Bama says Seth has said, if we all knew what was in those reports, we wouldn't be able to sleep. So it's bad. Oh yeah, KP knew. She knew. SA officer, he was really going through it. He was really going through it. And just think about how would you do well in school if you're having these horrible intrusive flashbacks of trauma that you went through, that someone forced upon you. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers reported that Child B was, quote, his only friend, and that Child B threatened that he wouldn't be friends with him anymore. I'm sorry. I think I went up too far. Um, the only adult who knew besides my mom, okay, um, is a quote. The intake noted that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was struggling with behaviors after he moved to Sumner County School District and was placed in the behavioral program at Schaefer Middle School. 23. Critically, the intake documented that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, quote, stated he is afraid of what his stepfather, Mr. Chris, guys, Mr. Chris is in quotes. It's a quote in a quote. Mr. Chris. Mr. Chris. He's afraid of Mr. Chris, the stepfoot. He's afraid of what he would do if he found out. And he is afraid he will, quote, hurt him for telling an adult what happened, end quote. Okay? So he he only told his mom, but Mr. Chris didn't know. Mr. Chris, you piss pants, didn't know. And he was scared, and if he was going to find out that he would get hurt, and he would get hurt for telling. The intake further noted that, quote, stepfather, he used corporal punishment on Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers several times before, and it is unknown if he knows how the abuse or how he will react or blame Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, end quote. He's scared to death of Chris Proudfoot because he was abusing him and had been continuously abusing him. I don't call it corporal punishment. If you want someone to call it corporal punishment, then you got the wrong channel. I call it abuse. He never should have put his hands on that child. Period. Who the fuck do you think you are putting your hands on him like that? Scaring him to no end kind of makes it understandable why Sebastian was having issues. I'm not a professional. I'm not. I don't have a degree in anything. But I can understand that when you have a child who just a couple years ago experienced something so horrific and such a betrayal of a friend, I can understand that you have a stepfather who you have to call Mr. Chris. Otherwise, he's going to knock you around. He's going to put his hands on you. He's going to take his belt off and whip you with it. I can understand why that would cause severe PTSD and bathroom issues. Complex PTSD, because you have trauma layered upon trauma, layered upon trauma. Thank you, my PTSD, and I know you guys do too, or you wouldn't be here. Common sense, morals, and a heart. That's all it really takes, right? Thanks, my PTSD. That's all it really takes to understand that Sebastian needed help, that he needed understanding, that he needed support, that he didn't need anything. He didn't need anybody making it worse for him. He already felt bad enough about what happened. He didn't need to be shamed further. Sometimes we are our own worst critics. And when you go through something like that, you blame yourself because it happened and you didn't want it to happen. Sharon Marlowe says, I get the feeling that many people are not sleeping well, nor are they living their best lives anymore. Well, I hope not. I hope they are using the bathroom on themselves because it's just too much to think that Sebastian went through this. It's just too much to think. He needed love and compassion, Kiki. He needed somebody to step in for him. And he was trying to tell people that he was feeling this way. And sometimes it's so much easier to go and talk to a counselor, a trusted adult. And that's what he was trying to do. Number 24, the intake also noted that Sebastian suffered from frequent bathroom accidents and displayed some verbal sexual behavior. Excuse me. Let me back it up. I want to say this correctly. The intake also noted that Sebastian suffered from frequent bathroom accidents and displayed some verbal sexually aggressive behavior toward multiple other students. Okay, so he was saying some things that they deemed to be sexually aggressive. Okay. On September 29th, 2022, Ritchie conducted an administrative review. She documented the sexual abuse allegations and noted the next steps would include a full assessment. Initial face to face response was due by October 3rd, 2022. On September 30th, 2022, Boswell met with Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers at Schaefer Middle School in a private conference room. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers told Boswell that he, quote, feels safe with his family at home, end quote, and that he, quote, feels safe at his dad's home, end quote. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers identified his father as Seth Rogers, who lived in Clarksville. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers stated something happened when he lived in California, but he did not want to talk about it at school. Boswell noted Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers had, quote, no visible marks or bruises and appeared happy and healthy at this time, end quote. I'd beg to differ. It's not appearing to be happy or healthy when he's coming to you for help, and you were supposed to be his voice, and you were supposed to be the one that told his dad. He told you who his dad was and where he lives, and you didn't help him. You didn't tell his dad. He didn't want to be the one to tell his dad, so he was trying to get help from you, Laura Boswell, and you did nothing. You did nothing. It's awful. You should be ashamed. Happy and healthy. Yeah, I don't think so. No. Mm-mm. On October 12th, 2022, Boswell mailed a certificate letter to the family, noting they had recently moved and there was no forwarding address. Did you guys catch that? On October 12th, 2022, Boswell mailed a certified letter to the family, noting they had recently moved and there was no forwarding address. Number 28. On October 17th, 2022, Ritchie conducted another administrative review and updated the case, noting that Boswell had seen the child and that he, quote, did not want to talk about what happened in California, end quote. That the family was moving and that efforts to contact them had been unsuccessful. On October 27th, 2022, Boswell conducted a home visit. Katie stated she, quote, does not understand why this keeps getting called into DCS, end quote, and that the abuse, quote, happened when Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was 8 and another child named Jonathan was involved, end quote. She stated, quote, CPS and detectives were involved in El Cajon City, end quote, in California. She provided the California address of 9860 Dale Avenue, apartment E5, Spring Valley, California. And we already knew that address because of the public record search. She confirmed Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers had, quote, severe combined type ADHD, end quote, and a 62q27 chromosome deletion, end quote, and took Concerta, had an IEP and behavioral plan, and was starting therapy with Vanderbilt Psychiatry on November 3rd. She confirmed that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers also saw a neurologist at Vanderbilt. Okay, so what I want to point out here is that when they made contact with Katie, she says that there was no concerns. She was upset that Sebastian had even brought it up again. She didn't want it brought up again, guys. Like, oh, yeah, that happened when he was 8. I don't care if it happened when he was 5. I don't care if it happened when he was 3. I don't care if it happened when he's 100. It happened. He's having issues with it. It's still on his mind. It's still affecting him. Hey, Blue Love. He's having issues with it, Katie. And he needs help. And he's asking, please, I need some help. But I also want to point out that Katie is the one who was putting him into therapy. So she had to have known something was happening aside from DCS. If she was she's already checking some of the boxes that they would have checked, right? Therapy being one. It makes me sick at my stomach, Betty. It's sickening. Just knowing we were going to talk about it tonight made me sick. Number 30. During the same visit, Boswell spoke to Proudfoot in private. Proudfoot stated, quote, this was all investigated in California, end quote, and that he had, quote, never spanked Sebastian, so he does not know why Sebastian feels he would be mad for talking about what happened in California, end quote. This statement was directly contradicted by Sebastian's own disclosure that he was, quote, afraid of what his stepfather would do, and by the intake noting the stepfather had used, quote, corporal punishment on Sebastian several times before, end quote. DCS did not reconcile this contradiction. Big surprise. But the big question is, why did they not reconcile this contradiction? Of course, that fucking buffoon is going to say, I didn't do anything. I didn't hit him. I've never spanked him. You're not in trouble. You're not in trouble. What do you want to say to Sebastian, Proudfoot? You're not in trouble. Fucking buffoon. Hey, Canine Captain Jules. Lady Freedom, one of the local deputies, asked about Sebastian's name on my canine Gator's vest, and I only had about 15 flyers left in my car, but he took them and agreed to hang them. Really? There you go, Jules. Thank you, Jules, for that. That's the silver lining, Jules. Girl, we need one. We need a silver lining here because this is absolutely disgusting. Katie and Chris, Chris, uh, degrading pieces of shit humans I've ever learned about, and adding that to the Bowersock's evilness. Yeah, I got a couple of posts that I'm going to be sharing about that too. Because Lauren on Facebook is really hot and heavy, I think, as I am. Um, she's just been posting some, reminders. Blue Love says, think about it. Oh, he's autistic. We have to do things different than other families. He isn't normal. See what he does. I can hear it now. And CP used the autism card behavior to his advantage to hit. And he did it to Nina's kids. He did it to Nina's kids. I did see it, Jules. I'll post it too because that's a good thing. I'm glad. I'm glad he's, rocking out Gator's vest for him. Sebastian's name. So, they didn't reconcile the contradiction. I want to remind everybody that this home visit was conducted on October 27th of 2022. Okay. So it started in September. They made contact at the school with Sebastian, but upon trying to do the home visit, they realized they moved. So it took them a little while before they found Chris and Katie. Okay. And then that's when they went and made initial contact with them and never reconciled the differences and contradictions in the story. Okay. 31. Boswell then met with Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers in private, noting he was, quote, completing his homework, end quote, and appeared happy and healthy. Well, she quoted, appeared happy and healthy. Okay. Which we know he wasn't. 32. Whoops. 32. On November 1st, 2022, Boswell verified that the sexual abuse case in California had been investigated by a detective, Gloria Mendoza, in El Cajon. She also verified mental health services and Vanderbilt appointments for Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. Okay. On November 3rd of 2022, the case was presented to the Sumner County Child Protective Investigative Team, CPIT. All right. So already we can see a breach in their procedures, right? Because what we read, and please, guys, this is a part 4. This is a part 4. So if you go back to part 1, you're going to see us going over all of these organizations that were included in this, what we're talking about right now. Okay. And that is on November 3rd, 2022. The case was presented to the Sumner County Protective CPIT. Now, CPIT was supposed to be involved on the initial visit. They are to send a police officer and people from CPIT team. You guys failed. You see where you failed? Because this occurred in September and CPIT doesn't get involved until November. Tell me you didn't screw the pooch when you did. Thank you, Kiki, for the flower. This is evidence and proof that you know Sebastian didn't go poof, but this is also evidence and proof of your negligence, your gross negligence. You did not follow your own procedures and policies. CPIT was not deployed until November 3rd of 2022. That is incorrect, and that's not what it says on your website, and that is not the process. Do you think we're stupid? Because we're not. We're not stupid over here, are we, ladies and gentlemen? Hey, Gina, I explained a lot of these details to some locals. Some were ex commissioners, they had no clue. And who would think, Gina? I'm so glad that you did. There all of these connections run really, really deep. You know, all of these connections run really, really deep, but we were on to them big time. And now we have exactly what we need. So this also included juvenile court, Ashley's Place Child Advocacy Center, Assistant District Attorney Jenny Smith, and law enforcement. You guys see that? These are the people that should have been deployed in September, at the very least October, but not until November 3rd were they deployed. They were supposed to be involved in the first contact with the parents and the children. Where were they at? Where were they? Were they too busy drinking whiskey with the Duck Dynasty crew or what? Were they too busy politicking or what? Because that's a lot of agencies to be involved as well that dropped the ball. A detective was assigned to the case here on November 3rd, and all members agreed to classify the case as administrative closure. Okay? All members agreed to classify the case as a quote administrative closure. And that was the CPIT team, which included juvenile court, Ashley's Place Advocacy Center, what a joke, Assistant District Attorney Jenny Smith, and law enforcement, and an unnamed detective who was assigned to the case. I wonder who that detective was. And I wonder who made contact with Sebastian as it pertains and how they came to the conclusion that it needed to have a quote administrative closure on it. What made them close it when they had conflicting statements? What made them close it when Sebastian was not being properly cared for? His needs were not being met. Why didn't they contact Seth Rogers? Katie, that's a question for you too. And it's a question for you, Chris, and this is why. It's because you sat up there and told your friend Hollyanna Thompson that you talk to Seth all the time. You all talk on the phone almost daily. Almost daily. It never came out in your almost daily conversation that Sebastian was having a hard time and scared of you? Because if I was talking to my ex's current spouse almost daily, and I found out that my stepchild was scared to death of me, that they were so scared of me that they were having accidents because of the fear, I would definitely address that. And I would never want my stepchild to be so afraid of me that they were having such issues. I mean, that's horrific. But yet, you never told Seth and Katie. showing no concern, which is not surprising because we all know you. We all know you, Katie, and we know that you don't have any concern for Sebastian, and that's your number one problem. You sick bitch. That's your number one problem, Katie. Don't be mad at us because of your actions. That's on you. Our reaction to your disgusting behavior and lack of action in protecting Sebastian is directly why we think you are just the scum of the earth. You're a real shit bum because you did nothing. You allowed for it, Katie, which is worse. Number 34. On November 7th, 2022, Richie updated her review, noting, quote, the case has now been presented to CPIT as administrative closure as it was investigated in California. This was this was child on child, and they were the same age. Wow. The child reports no concerns at this time. The child is getting back in therapy services. The child reports no concerns. The mother is protective and proactive with the child. Now, this is the problem, guys, and that's end quote. This is the problem. Sebastian was scared to death to say any more. Period. End of story. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I double dog dare ya. He's afraid. He doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Enough shit got stirred up. Of course he's not going to want to talk about it anymore. Of course he's not going he's going to tell you everything's peachy keen. You guys really need some more training across the board. Now, I mean, this is right here where you can see why it fell through the cracks, right? Why they closed it out. Right here, number 34. Because the case was presented to them, and the social worker, Laura Boswell, she came back and she said, guess what? The kid is happy and healthy. Then she came back the next time when she did the actual home visit. She said he was happy and healthy when she visited him at school. And then when she visited Sebastian in the house, she noted he was doing his homework and that he was happy and healthy. That's why they closed the case. Now we know why. Now we know why. I knew from the first interview they were lying, Bab says. I knew it was my gut. And I never said any different. And that was my opinion since that interview. I mean, you got Katie fake crying. You got her up there. They won't show their faces. They're lying their ass off on Duchess for the Missing. First interview. Absolutely. Number 35. On November 14th, 2022, Richie spoke with CAC Director Amy Salyers, and the classification was changed to, quote, unable to complete, end quote, based on policy 14.7 because the incident occurred out of state. Okay? So now we're on to Richie's part of this. Right? Which it comes to her desk on November 14th. And she spoke to the CAC director, Amy Salyers, and they called it unable to complete because the incident happened in California. And so There's no one to prosecute for that, and it's out of their jurisdiction. Number 36. On November 15th, 2022, Supervisor Walker completed the final administrative review and approved the case for closure as, quote, unable to complete due to the incident occurring out of state, end quote, and the case was closed. So if you're wondering why the case was closed, just refer back to number 34 and 36 in this document, okay? Because that'll tell you everything you need to know. Out of state, and he was already getting services according to Katie and Chris. So they acted like nothing was wrong. $37. The foregoing investigation gave DCS and law enforcement actual knowledge of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' vulnerability. By reason of this actual knowledge, DCS and law enforcement were on heightened notice that any subsequent allegation of abuse by Proudfoot or within the Proudfoot household required a more searching and skeptical investigation than they would otherwise apply. The first investigation's findings were not a clean slate. They were a documented um, predicate of danger that obligated DCS to treat any further report concerning this child and his household with the gravity the circumstances demanded. Okay? C. DCS case ID 1509540 Physical abuse investigation, May of 2023. Number 38. On May 3rd, 2023, at approximately 9:06 p.m., a second call was placed to the DCS Child Abuse Hotline. This intake was screened as a priority 3, same as the last, with allegations of physical abuse against Proudfoot. The alleged child victim, again, was Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. Okay? Number 39. The intake reported that Proudfoot had made, quote, comments about pushing the child against a wall when he does not behave, end quote, and that the child reported Proudfoot hit Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers in the belly. Okay? He pushed him against the wall. Chris Proudfoot took Sebastian and pushed him up against the wall. Unbelievable. Exactly. I don't give a fuck what state it happened in either, Babs. I don't. I don't care which one it happened in either. When he was S8, he was feeling a certain type of way about it still. He knew his mom let that happen to him. The fuck does that have to do with anything? It doesn't. He's still reporting it. He knows. It's okay. I know. It's awful. I know. It's awful. He's pushing him up against the wall. He's hitting him in the belly. Number 40, on May 8th, 2023, at approximately 6:30 p.m., Boswell arrived at the family home. Boswell arrived at the family home. It was the same lady that came up and we were all eating dinner. You remember Proudfoot saying that? You remember Proudfoot saying that? So he goes to school and he tells his teacher. But he told us that he whacked him with the belt. Whack, kind of got him. And he goes to school and tells his teacher. And they came in and we were actually sitting down to eat dinner. Yeah. Knowing you, you probably had a fucking feeding trough. On May 8th, 2023, at approximately 6:30 p.m., Boswell arrived at the family home. Proudfoot granted permission to enter. Boswell met with Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers on the porch. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers stated he remembered Boswell coming to his home last year. You were supposed to be the one to tell Boswell. Of course, he remembered your ass. Your sorry ass. And then imagine his dismay when you bring your sorry ass back to his house. Of course, he remembered you. How could he forget? Sebastian thought he was going to get me kicked out of the house. Yes, Gina, yes. He thought he was going to get me kicked out of my house. Yes. During this interview, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers told Boswell that Proudfoot required he wore a belt every day. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers stated that Proudfoot asked him to lift his shirt, and when Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers did not have a belt on, Proudfoot, quote, smacked him in his belly with the back of his hand and said, "You know you're supposed to be wearing a belt," end quote. Let the punishment fit the crime. So you put your big pig hands on Sebastian, so maybe we should find some pig to put his hands on you. Right? Because you're all about the punishment fitting the crime. Right? Maybe we'll have your friend Clue start putting her hands on you. Disgusting. Sickening. Despicable. Number 42, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers also told Boswell, that's Laura Boswell, that he had been lying to Katie and Proudfoot about brushing his teeth and making his bed, and that he had been, quote, getting into trouble for lying. For lying about doing work, right, Katie? Isn't that what you told Nancy Grace? Nancy Grace, why have you not gone over these filings? Or lying about doing work. Katie, that's a quote. Right? Because you asked specifically on your show about this, so you would think this would be something you would be quite interested in, right? Or did you forget? And then he lied to your face, by the way. Because Sebastian told Laura Boswell on May 8th at approximately 6:30 p.m., Nancy, that he's being hit and smacked in the belly because he wasn't wearing a belt. So aren't you curious? Don't you want to know more? Because I would if I was you. Just saying. But now it's for him not brushing his teeth or making his bed, right? Because he was lying about doing work, like brushing his teeth and making his bed. Oh my God. 43. Boswell then met with Proudfoot on the porch. Proudfoot admitted that he was cleaning Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' drawers, right? Like his dresser drawers. Asked Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers if he had a belt on. And when Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers pulled up his shirt and said no, Proudfoot, quote, whacked him with the back of his hand in his belly and said, boy, you know you're supposed to wear a belt every day, end quote. Well, that sounds like Sebastian was telling the truth. Smacked him in the belly because he wasn't wearing a belt. So, how is Sebastian lying? How is Sebastian lying if both people who are in question right now are telling the exact same story? Finally, a consistent moment. And now, what are you guys going to do with it? Oh, we all know because Sebastian's still missing and he's been missing for 2.5 years. We already know you didn't do shit. You sorry motherfuckers. Oh my God. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. No. Mm-mm. This is not okay. Proudfoot stated that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers had to wear a belt because he needed to start wearing pull ups. Proudfoot claimed he had, quote, never physically harmed Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, end quote. What is hitting him in the belly? What is backhanding him? Why is it that you're always backhanding kids? Because didn't you backhand Nina's daughter and she was wearing braces and so her poor little mouth got cut up? Because I don't have any reason to lie. But isn't that what was alleged against you? And all of a sudden we have you admitting that you're using a backhand on Sebastian? Poppy, we gotta find him. I just want him to know none of this is his fault. None of it. It's their fault. It is 100,000 million bajillion trillion% their fault and not his. And I want him to know that they're in trouble because they keep saying, you're not in trouble, Sebastian. You're not in trouble, Sebastian. You're not in trouble. But I want him to know that they are the ones in trouble now. And he doesn't have to worry. All right. Number 44. This is just infuriating because, he physically touched him, but yet the this lady is so stupid, Laura Boswell, that she's saying, well, he said he never did anything to him. He just admitted it to you, dumbass. Oh Lord, how I mean, number 44, Proudfoot's own admission that he, quote, whacked, end quote, a child with diagnosed autism and multiple disabilities in the belly constituted physical abuse. You think? So, but you still didn't do anything. His requirement that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, quote, wear a pull up, end quote, and submit to shirt lifting inspections constituting constituted degrading and humiliating treatment of a disabled child who suffered from documented bathroom accidents as a consequence of prior sexual trauma. But I don't think it was just that, because if you read between the lines, he was scared of Chris. That's right, Catherine. That's right. That's right. Sebastian is very brave, standing up, speaking his truth, and trying to get help the best way he knew how. Thank you, Catherine. Just breaks my heart. Hey, lover girl. Thank you, Jill. Lover girl says, how can the CPS worker have left him with no help in the hands of these two monsters? I don't know. I have no idea. It's so infuriating. And she's documenting all of it. So she gets it, yet she does nothing, you know? And again, I hate when they put it in there, just the way that they put these statements in here. It's like Proudfoot claims that he never physically harmed Sebastian. Okay, but why don't you just say Chris Proudfoot lied? Chris Proudfoot lied on Sebastian and said he never did, even though he admitted it to begin with. But no, instead, it's written like, well, Chris Proudfoot's refuting those claims and there's no evidence that he's right. I hate the way that's written. And it is a sadist. I mean, it's evil. It's evil. Hey, Lori, it's evil. I hope they do too, Sharon. I think that they pretty well know it too, especially, what his mom, what Chris's Cruella mom said. I can't even imagine the pain Sebastian lived daily with Mr. Chris, in my opinion. I know, Lori, and it's disgusting because, Chris was bragging to Smiley about this. He does not call me stepfather. He does not call me. He calls me Mr. Chris. Just don't call me late for dinner because that ain't happening. Fucking sick fuck. Sorry, guys. I try to watch my mouth and it's just not. It's not. I can't. Number 45. Here comes Katie. Boswell spoke to Katie in the kitchen. Katie stated, quote, they have been working with Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers on when he tells something to tell the entire story, end quote. So all Katie had to say about it was to blame Sebastian again and stick up for Chris. We're not surprised though. Are we? Because I'm just not. Let me start a poll. Let's start a poll. I want to know how many people out here today that are here in the chat think that Katie Proudfoot. Well, I want to know if you're shocked. I want to know if you're shocked by this. Because I'm just not. It's like, so it'll just be a yes or no. Because I'm not even going to put unsure. If you're unsure, then, maybe you need to listen a little bit longer. You're not ready to vote. Okay. No offense to those who are not sure, but come on. Are you shocked? Okay, Katie's lack of concern. Or her, well, and I'll say, and her blaming Sebastian. just a, it's just a yes or no. Nobody's gonna know what you voted, or if you voted. Okay, it's just, you know, uh, it's sickening to me. I have issues with it, but I'm not shocked. No, I'm not. I'm just not. It doesn't surprise me one bit because I think back to every single statement she's made. You know, all right. So she also said that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, quote, will tell tidbits, or I'm sorry, tell bits and pieces to a story to fit his narrative. Wow. Wow. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers will tell bits and pieces to a story to fit his narrative. Well, Sebastian, I'm glad that my name is Lady Freedom's Raw Narratives, and I'm here to help you tell your side of the story. There you go, Katie. You got me on Sebastian's side to help him with his narrative. You sorry excuse for a human, let alone a mother. Sick, sick, sick. She stated she, quote, had no concerns that Mr. Proudfoot smacked Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' belly with intent to hurt him, end quote. Guys, all of these are direct quotes. Quote, no concerns that Mr. Proudfoot smacked Sebastian's belly with intent to hurt him. She didn't care if he intended to hurt him or not. Yeah, I'll thank you, my PTSD. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat, but also thank you because I mean, I can't hold it back. It's just, it makes it a little easier to tell the story because at least I'm getting out some of my aggressive language. And trust me, Katie, I got plenty for you. You too, Crispy. I ain't afraid of you. All right. So Katie didn't give a shit. Number 45, Katie didn't give a shit. Okay? She cared not. Which makes me care not about how she feels or what she wants out there or any of it. Number 46. On May 9th, 2023, Boswell verified that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was receiving therapy services 3 times a week through a private therapist and medication management through Mental Health Cooperative. Now, I just want to say that Sebastian was on therapy back in 2022 in November. He was going 3 times a week in November. So for the entire time, and Tony told us this, everything that Tony said to Mr. and Mrs. E on their crime cast and Aunt E is in this paperwork, just like he told it. I know that because I made a timeline. I know that. I know that this matches with what Tony told us. And I also know that it matches that Katie had no concern. And I know that it matches that there was therapy notes for a year. And that's what Tony said. Right? From the end of 22 into 23. Not quite a year, I'm sorry. But this is exactly what Tony was telling us. So think about how many notes had to be generated when you have sessions 3 times a week. Bab says the arrest can't come fast enough. I'm shocked, just so angry at so many people involved who neglected him. Babs, me too. And thank you for your super chat. I very much appreciate it. And they can't come fast enough. They can't. Because it's been 2 years, 2.5 years since Sebastian's went missing, but then we're even going back further than that. So it's more like 3, almost 4 years that Sebastian has been failed and neglected. He was being neglected far before the case was being neglected, his missing persons case. Again, I didn't, you know, graduate from some fancy college or any, well, a junior college. But I mean, real estate school. But again, I can tell you that he was absolutely being neglected and that Katie was absolutely allowing for this and that he was going through counseling 3 times a week. So there is far more proof and evidence for them to hold Chris and Katie's feet to the fire, and they should have, and they didn't. And thank God for Tony letting us know, right? Because we at least had a timeline per se, right? Like he wasn't telling us exact anything. He was saying involvement was from here to here, right? So awful. Now, on number 47, on May 11th, 2023, Richie conducted the administrative review and concluded, now here's Richie again, that, quote, this case is ready for closure at this time as no services needed. Case manager has met with the family and they denied any concerns. The child reported being safe in the home. He stated the stepfather popped his belly and told him to wear a belt. The child denied any physical abuse in the home. Of course he did. He knew you guys were leaving him there. The stepfather reported the same as the child. Quote, Richie noted, end quote, excuse me. Richie noted the, quote, fast is completed with no need for intervention, end quote. Yeah, well, that's why your ass is being sued. On May 11th, 2023, the case was closed as, quote, no services needed. So again, if you guys want to know about these cases and why they were closed, then all we have to do is refer here, right? All we have to do is refer to number 48, 47 and 48, and that'll tell you why the second case was closed. It's because they keep saying that there's no services needed. Again, they took the parents' word for it. Brenda, good to see you. Brenda Austin says, no one is more important than my kids. She's in the wrong for not protecting him. Chris is a worthless person. Figured him out long time ago. I would love to have a face-to-face with that loser. Mm-hmm. Brenda, the feeling is mutual. So now we have 49. DCS's failure to conduct a minimally adequate investigation was compounded by its complete failure to involve Rogers Rogers, who is Seth Rogers, Sebastian's biological father, who held joint physical and legal custody of Sebastian pursuant to a court order. Despite this, DCS never notified Rogers that the investigation was underway, never interviewed him as Sebastian's other legal parent to obtain his observations regarding Proudfoot or the conditions in the Proudfoot home, and never offered to place Sebastian with him during the investigation, notwithstanding that such placement was clearly within DCS's authority and was the most obvious protective measure available. Boom. Bam. Shazam. Number 49. So if you're wondering why there's a lawsuit against these people, against DCS in Tennessee, all you have to do is refer back to number 49. Because they didn't let Seth know he is Sebastian's biological father. Sebastian is his son. And he had joint legal and physical custody of Sebastian at that time, and he was never notified of any of this or even to get his thoughts or perspective on any of it. Nothing was shared with him, and he had no knowledge of it. And it would have been the most obvious way to protect Sebastian. However, they did not. And this is why we're sitting here talking today about this subject. Number 50. Had DCS fulfilled this most basic obligation, it would have learned, sorry, I said that right, critical information. So if the Department of Children's Services would have done just the basics, right? Just the bare minimum of what they're obligated to do, they would have learned critical info that wasn't captured in the case file. Seth Rogers would have told DCS investigators that Sebastian had expressed to him on multiple occasions that he was more comfortable with Seth than with Proudfoot, and that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was afraid of Proudfoot because he believed Proudfoot would hurt him if he disclosed what had been happening. Seth Rogers would have informed DCS that Proudfoot had ridiculed Sebastian about the prior sexual assault, compounding Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' existing trauma and making Sebastian even less likely to disclose abuse to any adult he believed would report back to Mr. Chris Stepfoot and their household, right? He was scared because he knew they were leaving him there. He couldn't say anything else because shit had already hit the fan and he couldn't risk more. Yeah, I'm glad it is out there now too, Gina. I've had her on my radar for a very long time. Because when Seth came out and said about the firings and about, yeah, what could be possible reason they didn't contact him? I don't know. The only thing I can think of is maybe they knew people at DCS. And maybe Katie was saying that, he wasn't in Sebastian's life, but it's still on them, and I don't know why they didn't do their research. Number 51, Rogers would further have told DCS that Katie had spoken to him on multiple occasions in terms that evidenced her frustration with and hostility towards Sebastian, telling Seth repeatedly how fed up she was with Sebastian for his ongoing accidents of soiling and wetting himself. The very same bathroom accidents that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' therapist had documented as a known consequence of his prior sexual trauma. Okay, so Seth is saying and alleging that he is told or that he has talked to Katie on multiple occasions where she was saying how fed up she was about Sebastian having accidents because of his trauma. I could say something really fucking mean right now, but I'm going to refrain from that because two wrongs don't make a right. Number 52, Rogers would have advised DCS that Sebastian's mental health state had been deteriorating and that his behavioral problems were worsening, and that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers himself appeared increasingly distressed in the period leading up to the investigation. DCS already possessed documentation of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' his escalating behavioral issues. A minimally competent investigator would have recognized Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' worsening condition not as a fixed background fact, but as a contemporaneous warning sign that something in Sebastian's living environment was causing him active harm. Do you guys not agree 100% with that? Because I do. Sebastian was going through so much that he was deteriorating, not just mentally, but behaviorally. He was appearing to be increasingly more distressed because there was these active investigations that started in 2022. Prior to that, having to endure such a traumatic event for weeks. It wasn't just something that happened once. It was over a period of time. Over a period of time. She's absolutely pathetic, Jilly. She is. There's no excuse. Bab says the fact that Katie has never pleaded for help in finding her son, hasn't searched, hasn't ever participated in any search for him, tells it all. I agree. I agree. And they wanted us to shut up about it. Don't talk about it, right? Because if you do, we're going to have a fit. We're going to send our cronies after you. Utterly disgusting. Hmm. DCS already, oh, okay, excuse me. 53. DCS did not investigate the cause of Sebastian's deterioration. It closed the case instead. Boom. Number 53. Says it all in one sentence. Letter D. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' disappearance. And number 54. On February 26th, 2024, Katie reported that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, quote, left the home on his own and his whereabouts are unknown, end quote. And that, quote, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers has never left the home before alone, end quote. Given Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' neurodivergence, his his developmental disabilities, and the documented history of abuse in the home, this report should have triggered the most intensive investigative response possible. not just operating off of the assumption that Sebastian walked off, in my opinion. Hello, Scranton. So good to see you. Never, never, ever, ever should we ever be here talking about this. They should have done everything to find Sebastian, and they didn't because they were involved and they dropped the ball and they knew it and they messed up. And let's not forget, there's two other reports that aren't being talked about just yet, and also one that's still open, a fifth one that happened right before he went missing. Number 55. More than 48 hours after Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was reported missing by his mother, an Amber Alert was issued by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, TBI. The Sumner County Sheriff's Office, SCSO, initiated a search that at the beginning involved significant resources, including community volunteers and search teams. Number 56, a DCS safety assessment was initiated on March 1st of 2024. You guys hear that? A DCS safety assessment was initiated on March 1st of 2024, and a FAST 2.0 assessment was completed on March 5th, 2024. All right, let's look what a FAST 2.0 assessment is. Okay, just bear with me. I'll pull it up for you. All right, let's just take this down for a minute. All right, FAST 2.0 assessment in Tennessee, the Family Advocacy and Support Tool. Yeah, they're a bunch of fucking tools, all right. FAST, FAST, is a family based assessment used by the Tennessee Department of Children's Services, DCS, to evaluate the safety risks, needs, and strengths of families involved with Child Protective Services, or CPS. It is designed to guide service planning for non custodial parents and families receiving in home services, including Family Crisis Intervention Program, which is FCIP, and Family Support Services, FSS cases. The purpose and the scope. The primary goal is to identify immediate safety concerns, underlying risks, and protective factors for family unit. The scope. All children and caregivers in the household are included regardless of age. What about Faith? Because she was in the household at times. The use. Completed before or during child and family team meetings. Assessed throughout the case to adjust services as needed. Certification. DCS staff must be certified to complete FAST. Structure and components. FAST 2.0, as in the Tennessee FAST interview guide, is organized into two main sections. One, the family together. Evaluates the family as a system, covering financial resources, residential stability, physical condition of the home maintenance, natural supports, family conflict, resiliency, family safety, adjustment to trauma, medical/physical health, deployment, development of intellectual disability, mental health, substance use, criminal activity, supervision, discipline, involvement in caregiver functions, and knowledge of child and family needs. Number two, child and youth. It evaluates each child/youth individually, including sexual abuse status, physical abuse status, emotional abuse, neglect, traumatic grief, witness to violence, relationship with prior caregiver, education, medical/physical help, developmental, mental health, substance use, high risk behaviors, runaway status. The assessment process for FAST or FAST safety assessment component is 16 items which focus on immediate safety and determines if intervention is needed. The full FAST gathers information from interviews with children and caregivers, observations, records checks, which are background checks, IVE for, oh, excuse me, Title 4E eligibility, collateral/witness interviews, medical and educational records, pictorial tools, genome, timeline, family map, photos. Really? So you mean to tell me they're supposed to do a genome timeline and family map with photos? Was Seth not on there? Because that's his father. Where was Cruella and Popcorn Tooth, the colossal popcorn tooth at? Just curious. Hmm. All right. Other assessment tools. Why it matters. Fast 2.0 helps. Does it? Because I just read that Sebastian was involved in this. It didn't help with shit. To protect the children by identifying urgent safety risks. Guide service planning by mapping strengths and needs. Coordinate interventions across family members and systems. Track progress over time to ensure effective outcomes. Well, you can't do that if you close the case, can you? If you are a DCS worker involved in the FAST case or FST case, you can access FST interview guidance, Tennessee FST version 2.1, and the protocol for completion on the Tennessee DCS website for detailed forms and instructions. Yeah, I'd advise maybe you guys get your asses over there and learn something. Despicable. All right. So he was involved, right? Sebastian, that is, in this assessment. Number 56, a DCS safety assessment was initiated on March 1st of 2024 after he went missing, excuse me. FAS 2.0 assessment was completed by March 5th. So they only did a 4-day assessment because it was completed on March 5th of 2024. Number 57, as of the date of this complaint, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers has been missing for nearly 2 years. He has not been found and no arrests have been made. The circumstances of his disappearance remain unknown. Number 58, Seth Rogers has been left in a state of unrelenting anguish, not knowing whether his son is alive or dead, and knowing that the state agencies entrusted with his son's protection failed him at every turn. Letter E, DCS's own records demonstrate it knew Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was in danger. Number 59, DCS's own records from the 2022 sexual abuse investigation are critical context for understanding what DCS knew when the 2023 physical abuse investigation was opened. Number 60, the first investigation documented that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers had been the victim of repeated sexual abuse while living in California, that he reported feeling, quote, disgusted with himself, end quote, over what happened. that his behavioral deterioration and placement in special behavioral program at his new school were connected to unresolved trauma symptoms that Sebastian's therapist had identified, sexually aggressive behavior, and chronic bathroom accidents as a direct consequence of prior sexual abuse, and that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers explicitly feared that Proudfoot would physically harm him if Sebastian disclosed this information. The intake also documented that Proudfoot had already used corporal punishment on Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers multiple times. Number 61. These facts form a documented foundation of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' physical state, his vulnerabilities, and the specific danger he faced in the Proudfoot home. When the 2023 physical abuse investigation opened with allegations against the same stepfather, DCS and law enforcement carried all of this knowledge into that investigation and were on heightened notice that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' disclosures had to be assessed against everything they already knew about this child and his home. Again, guys, this is a part four. And this is a part four because we are deep diving into these lawsuits, and we can plainly see from this, and thank you to everyone who has been here and who has watched the replay and who is caught up with where we're at in this. Because, in my opinion, and I apologize, I just started reading it. I didn't even post it up here, but here we go, guys. I apologize for that. I just noticed. This is a part four because we have witnessed everything that was alleged to begin with, and that everybody knew what Sebastian was going through, but they did nothing. The CPIT team, where were they the second time around? Where were they? Because they did nothing. Number 61, these facts from a documented foundation of Sebastian's psychological state has vulnerabilities and the specific danger he faced in the Proudfoot home. When the 2023 physical abuse investigation opened with allegations against the same stepfather, DCS and law enforcement carried all of this knowledge into the investigation and were on heightened notice that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' disclosures had to be assessed against everything they already knew about this child and his home. Again, I read that so that people can understand that they have been involved. The police knew Sebastian and who he was. So why they're doing an assessment after he went missing is beyond me, because they should have done this to begin with. Number 62. The safety assessment dated March 1st, 2024, and the FAST 2.0 assessment dated March 5th, 2024, reveal the totality of what DCS knew about Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' situation prior to his disappearance, which included A. That Sebastian had an IEP and Section 504 plan. B. That Sebastian was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, severe combined type ADHD, and 6q27 chromosome deletion syndrome. C. That he was prescribed and taking Concerta, saw a neurologist at Vanderbilt, and was scheduled to begin ABA therapy at the time of his disappearance. Why was he not in ABA therapy prior to that? I keep wondering. Letter D. That Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was, quote, sexually aggressive per his therapist reports, end quote, per law enforcement, quote, the child had some homicidal thoughts, end quote. Letter E. The law enforcement reported that Proudfoot, quote, had been heard by neighbors stating he hated the child and he wanted the child to die, end quote. Now, let me just back up because when we look at letter D and we think about how children model behavior, maybe he was modeling his dirty ass stepfoot when he was talking about homicidal thoughts because obviously the neighbors heard Chris Proudfoot talking about how he wanted Sebastian to die. In my opinion, that's a homicidal thought. Per the grandmother, Proudfoot, quote, often called Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers names and would degrade him, end quote. Letter F. That the child was missing and an Amber Alert was issued. Letter G. Um, that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers had been determined to meet criteria for participation in the Title 4E candidacy program and is at serious or imminent risk of removal from their home, end quote. This determination was made on both cases. First, on September 29th, 2022, later updated to, quote, no longer meets criteria, end quote, on May 4th, 2023. And again on March 1st, 2024. And letter H, that the September 29th, 2022 case included a, quote, non-custodial placement, end quote, need, indicating DCS recognized Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers might need to be placed outside the home. Number 63, the Title 4E candidacy determination is particularly significant. Title 4E of the Social Security Act provides federal funding for foster care. A child determined to meet 4E candidacy criteria is one whom the state has formally found to be, quote, at serious or imminent risk of removal from their home, end quote. DCS made this finding about Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers and then left him in the very home from which it had determined he was at serious risk of being removed. Seriously. Number 46. The combination of documented sexual abuse history, physical abuse by Proudfoot, and that's admitted by Proudfoot himself. Okay. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers has expressed fear of Proudfoot. Neighbors reporting Proudfoot, quote, hated the child and wanted him to die, end quote. The grandparent or the grandmother, Robin Rogers, reporting name calling and degradation by Proudfoot. Law enforcement reports of homicidal thoughts, sexually aggressive behavior, and DCS's own formal determination that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers was at imminent risk of removal constituted overwhelming evidence that this child was not safe. And DCS ignored all of it. All of it. And so did the Stinkfoots. And so did local law enforcement. And so did CPIT. And so did their little Fast 2.0 bullshit assessment. Disgusting. First cause of action. We will get into the causes of action in part 5. because I just don't know how much more I can take of this shit. And I want people to watch this. I do. I want people to watch this. And I want them to understand what we're dealing with here, what these allegations are, the gravity of the allegations. It's terrible, lover girl, and I'm scared. I'm scared. I am so terrified that law enforcement looked the other way and either allowed for Sebastian to be placed somewhere or that DCS placed him somewhere or that something more sinister could have happened. And it scares me to no end because Katie allowed for all of it. So if she's allowing for some of this to happen, then what else did she allow? How far did she let her husband take it? And that is a legitimate fear, in my opinion. And it's not something I like to feel. It scares me to no end because of what Chris Proudfoot could be capable of. Oh, it just keeps getting worse and worse. You know? You're welcome, Lori. I just feel so bad for Sebastian. I do. I do think he's alive, Cinderella. I do think that they put him someplace. I do. I didn't always think that way either. I didn't always think that. But because of all the research that we have done and everything we've been doing really over the last year has made me think that they have put him in a facility. Because even though it scares me because of what Chris Proudfoot is capable of and what Katie is capable of allowing, a lot of the evidence points to them putting him somewhere because it's easy to convince somebody if they have documentation of these things happening and they can blame Sebastian, right? He's having homicidal thoughts. I'm scared to death he's going to hurt somebody, type of thing. And then they can get him in anywhere, probably. Bab says all they had to do was allow Sebastian to go live with his dad, Seth, and he wouldn't have gotten him all the care. He would have gotten him all of the care and education and would have done anything for Sebastian. I think you're absolutely right. And I also think that all of this is preventable. All of this was preventable. You know? I mean, and the thing is, too, is if your child's going to therapy for 3 times a week and things are not getting better, then it sounds like you maybe should have been doing something maybe different. But again, I know there's no perfect answer to how to deal with trauma. But the thing about Sebastian is that he was being re-traumatized by stepfoot Mr. Chris. You know? Yeah, wanted Sebastian to die, Janet. Where is Sebastian, Katie? Hidden? Alive, Katie? The tattoo on your arm, a memory? I know, Janet, and that's what's scary. It is because it's like, it's hard to tell. It's hard to know. She knows. She's the one that knows. Katie Proudfoot knows. Chris Proudfoot knows. Law enforcement knows. That's why their asses are being sued. Mine is Chris and Katie, but I'm saying I'm scared. I mean, you know, it's okay, Jill. I'm almost done. DCS Sumner County LEC pit, and everyone ignored and neglected Sebastian. They did. I mean, you don't just go over to the house and take their word for it. And the police cozying up to them, no wonder. It's because they're accountable too. They're accountable too. And anybody that could do some digging that has more access than we do would be able to tell that very quickly. And that's why they're covering their asses, in my opinion. Lover Girl says something has never left or never felt right about this case. The way Katie has acted is beyond bizarre. The way Sumner County Sheriff's Office and Craddock have acted is also very bizarre. I agree with that too. I agree with that too. And I think it's because they all knew, right? So, and instead of doing the right thing with what they knew, they decided to help cover it up. And I always wondered what skin they had in the game, right? What dog they had in the fight. Well, now we know. Now we know. From day one, how many red flags and nothing was done? Craddock, Katie, right? Laura, Boswell, all of her supervisors. It's not okay. The worst thing is he's missing, Miss Sharon. We got to find him. We got to find him. My PTSD says, but why would KP have reported him missing? Then why would DCS file the reports that he was, or that he has unknown whereabouts? Well, and I think that's a good question. I mean, I can't pinpoint why a parent would falsely report a child missing, but we see it all the time. We see it all the time. Whether they hurt that child or whether, I mean, the thing about Sebastian's case in this case is it's not normal. It's never been normal. It's never been predictable or, no one's been arrested. No one has been charged. No one has even been named as a person of interest. And the only person that's been cleared is this mysterious, creepy ass green hoodie person who was waiting for Katie by her car at the Texas Roadhouse. That's the only person. They were so worried about that person's identity. I'm sure that person has something to do with it, guys. I mean, that's just where my mind goes. That's how I fill in the blanks. It could be true. It could be not. It could be nothing. But when they do things and their actions are going to speak louder than words, won't they? Because their words don't mean anything. We know they're fucking liars. Something I can't stand is somebody who wants to sit there and lie. Because you lost me then. I don't trust you. I don't trust you as far as I can throw you. I don't trust it. And DCS, I just think my PTSD, and as we're going to learn, because I'm going to pull in, everything. People have been sending me a lot of research too on DCS today. But I've been doing my own as well. We've all been putting together our heads on that as well. Everybody knows who they are that has been helping with that. But they're doing a lot of shady shit. I mean, why would DCS say that children aren't sleeping on air mattresses in their office? Why would DCS deny that when it's happening? Why are there people that were former DCS workers that are whistleblowing? It's because they're doing these things They're not legal. They're doing illegal things. They're doing things wrong and denying it. So that's why I think that. I think they would do anything. I don't put anything past those fuckers. All starts with Katie and the last person to be with. I agree with that. Katie's the last one to be with him, Janet. I believe that. We don't have a proper alibi for Chris Proudfoot. We know he stayed on the phone with Katie for about 3 hours that night, though, don't we? We know that. We know that. And all of these key topics that we've been talking about for 2.5 years, now we understand why we've been talking about them for 2.5 years. Now we understand why we do talk about Sebastian almost every single night. And when we talk about a new case, we talk about Sebastian. Because there's similarities and because he's still missing and he needs to be found. I think the FBI should be able to find him if they put these pieces together. I think so too. I think so too, Bo. I think you're very right. Bab says, OMG, if DCS and LE has allowed Sebastian to remain in a facility for all this time, I don't think that is the case, but holy hell. I mean, Babs, that's what, believe me, when I started thinking about this, I was thinking that way too. I'm like, but here's the thing that keeps gnawing at me is that the only way that Sebastian could be put into a facility, and these facilities are top secret. You can't even get a hold of them, right? It's really tough, and they're not going to tell us any information, right? But it's through a DCS referral. You can't get into Bledsoe Youth Academy without a DCS referral. And you know who was doling out those referrals? Jennifer Smith, former assistant district attorney, former assistant district attorney. She's the one that was saying all the youth need to be put away. They get money too, Babs. They get money to house these children. And the entities, private entities that own these facilities, are raking in the dough. They are raking in the dough. And we've always known. That's why I played the money song. Because it's all about money. That's right. Until he's found, we only know he is alive, in my opinion. I agree with that too, my PTSD, but I can't not explore other avenues when we're reading these things. It scares me. You know, it does. It scares me. And I hate that. Bab says so many people will go down if that's the case and they've put him somewhere. I hope so. I hope I hope we find him. Because, think of the lengths they'll go to keep it quiet. And that's scary too. Bo, thank you so much for being a member for 11 months. Oh my goodness, Bo. Thank you for all your hard work. We love you. Thank you, Bo. I love you too, and thank you so much. Wow, 11 months. That is amazing. Let me get you a party, girl. I haven't done any parties tonight. I'm sorry, guys. It's hard to share it. You know what I mean? It's different if I'm listening, I'm reading it. It's just really, really hard to share it. Hopefully Sebastian's alive and he needs to be found. That's right. I know. And I mean, there's no evidence to say he's not. It's just scary when you read that over and over again in this paperwork. What Proudfoot had in mind. It's disgusting. Makes me sick. He should be in jail. He should be awaiting trial. But instead, the police didn't do anything, and that's why they're being sued. Showpoodle says it is one of the reasons one case is still open that they will not turn over to Seth. It would reveal he has been placed somewhere. And see, that this is another thing that is also gnawing at me. Right, because they're keeping that a secret. They're keeping that a secret. And now it's on their hands too. And it always really has been, right? From the minute that they decided not to do the right thing by Sebastian. They could have gotten the people that are responsible, and that's Chris and Katie, in my opinion. They're the ones that are sending him off. Because Katie wouldn't have reported him missing, as PTSD said. They're the ones that did it. They're the ones that made the conscious effort to make a 3-way call to the sheriff's department instead of 911, and Katie put herself on mute because she knows she's a bad liar, in my opinion. Where's the audio? Why can't we hear that? How come they haven't released that? We got that from Javea Harris's case because the police over there in Sled is not corrupt, in my opinion. Because they wanted to find Javea, and they did. Same thing goes for any of these children who are falsely reported missing. Law enforcement springs into action. Law enforcement will take these parents to be interviewed at the police station. That didn't happen, in my opinion, here. I still could be wrong on that. I don't have evidence to support that. But it's looking very, very much like they didn't. And their inadequate investigation, their botched investigation, their lack of urgency, the deliberate indifference that's been displayed. Their names are Chris and Katie Proudfoot, the mom and her husband. Thank you, little Miss Sharon. They need to be arrested and held without bond until they confess to what happened and where Sebastian is. I agree with that 100%, Bo. Or, excuse me, Babs. I saw Bo underneath your comment. 100%. And they haven't been. No one has been arrested. No one has been detained for questioning at any point in time. If they were not directly involved since 2022, then they would have, though. That's the hell of it. They had direct knowledge that Sebastian was in danger. They didn't want CPS to get out, that CP wouldn't get his daughter, in my opinion. Exactly. Well, and then again, here they are doing this 2.0 assessment was because when we read through what that assessment entails, was Faith involved in that? Because she should have been, because they've already let her go on multiple visits to the house and for a period of time stay in the household and live in the household with Chris and Katie visiting, I guess, but still there for a prolonged period of time. So again, they're letting another child be put in danger. If I was Nina, I'd have their asses too, in my opinion. But I'm sure she's been pretty tied up with money since Chris Proudfoot likes to keep her. He likes to keep her in court, guys. He hasn't left her alone. He hasn't stopped. He continues to go after her. Okay, in my opinion. She's happy to have her baby. Sick. And thank you so much, little Miss Sharon, for gifting a Lady Freedom's Raw Narratives membership. And Babs, welcome to the Dragon Tribe, even though you've always been in the Dragon Tribe. But I'm glad that you got a membership. So thank you so much, little Miss Sharon. I agree they need to be arrested. Abuse. And there's plenty of evidence that they have of that, Janet. You're so right. They have plenty of evidence of that abuse. They documented it themselves. You know it? Thank you, Bo. So, Catherine says CP's daughter shouldn't be allowed back at the house either. I agree, Catherine. That poor little girl. She doesn't deserve any of this. She's a gorgeous little child, just like her mama, just like her sister. Show Poodle says she has been a member for 10 months. Show Poodles, that's so awesome. Fantastic. Thank you guys. Let me get that party out. See, I'm forgetting over here. Aw, I'm right behind Bo. Ditto. Aw, that's so awesome. Thank you so much, Show Poodles, for being a member for 10 months. That is amazing. When I see that, I'm just like always so amazed. That's so awesome, guys. Thank you so much. So, no, I share that opinion, Catherine. Bo says you're absolutely right. Oh, yeah, I think they're worried too, Cinderella. They should be. If they're not, they should be. Money, power, and greed. Money, power, and greed. And they're getting a lot of money to keep Sebastian. If they're keeping him at one of those places, they make quite a bit of money off of these little children, right? Of all different ages. Even a teenager like Sebastian. And God only knows. That's why we got to get to the bottom of it and find him. Fab says, I hope CP and KP and all of the officers involved and the DCS workers are crapping their draws every day. Boom. Me too. Me too. Poor Sebastian. Microdot says Sebastian would have told Seth everything if he lived with Seth. Yeah, or if he had I think if he had a guarantee that they were going to just like take him away and drive him to his dad's, I think that he wanted Laura Boswell to tell. I think Sebastian didn't want to be the one to tell. He was scared. He was sick of it. He knew that he was having a lot of issues, probably intrusive thoughts. Nobody likes to think about that. Nobody likes to relive the trauma. And, poor Sebastian, what he was going through. CP's arse would be in prison getting backdoor justice from inmates. Karma. CP wasn't going to have that happen because he's a coward. Boom, Microdot. You know, we certainly do, Miss Sharon, and thank you so much. We appreciate our members so much. Aw, that's so sweet. Bab says, why, when Sebastian was such a high risk case, wasn't the house treated as a crime scene? Boom. And more investigation done. Why wasn't CP's alibi investigated? We'll pin that one. Family friendly reminder to please say allegedly. Aw, thank you so much. And respect in chat. Thank you. Yeah, always. We got to say that in my opinions, right? Lover Girl says, great question, Babs, and hopefully Sumner County Sheriff's Office has the answer during this lawsuit. Lover Girl, I agree. Microdot says, exactly, the house was never processed as a crime scene. Never. Mm-mm. Piss poor. Yeah, nothing to see. No foul play. The parents are cooperating. Bower Sox, Carly, Melissa, Danny. Yeah, always names. Always same names. Always come up. Lauren. Yep, they all come up over and over and over again. You know, Also, didn't the United Cajun Navy guy say he hoped they would recover the boy's body? Yeah, I mean, look, their outcome is grim, but they're not doing the research that we are either, So that's another thing, too, because I don't think they've considered that. That's not their forte. They're in search and rescue, and what they're going off of is they're looking at statistics. We're looking at Sebastian's case specifically. And Bab says, with the money, Lady Freedom, you can make anyone disappear. Even CPS, DEA, and these facilities get money under the table. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And they get it from the state. And think about how scary it is that they could just make money off of even sending a child wherever, you know? And the facility is probably telling Sebastian no one loves him, including Seth, since no one has visited him. I mean, they could be brainwashing him, and that's another thing that scares the living crap out of me. I mean, it just does. Because poor Sebastian, we don't know what he's going through. We don't know what he's been through. We don't know what he's going through right now. You know? And with them having direct involvement, thank you, little Miss Sharon. I just hate thinking that. I hate thinking that Sebastian ever had to deal with this. And I know it's hard for you guys to hear too. It's hurtful. Look, our speculations and stuff were a little bit different than hearing that a lot of what we were thinking was right. But, but wouldn't the FBI know this? I mean, that's what I've been grappling with, show poodles, because you would think that they would have enough no well awareness, or like that they would be aware, because even that 138-page document we were talking about, right, is talking about how they're investigating these places, these schools, these therapeutic homes, right, residential therapeutic homes, um, but it's not like they know the children individually who are in the homes and things like that. They just don't know, and I've thought about maybe that Sebastian could be under a different name. Why was Katie taking pictures of Sebastian at the Texas Roadhouse without his knowledge? Why was Katie telling things to Sebastian and Sebastian kept shaking his head no? Or he would say, I don't know. Why did it seem like at a certain point Katie was getting aggressive with Sebastian and what she was telling him, like he was in trouble? Or like she was telling him like it is, or like it's going to be. Those are the things that stick with me too. you know, or maybe Katie set it up on the sly, a school that is, because if we go back and listen to a lot of the accounts of children in these schools, they were just taken out of their house in the middle of the night with none of their belongings. But Katie could have made arrangements for that to happen anywhere. She could have made arrangements for that to happen, and Cruella Bowersox took them. She could have made arrangements for that to happen in Stop 30 Road, right off of Stop 30 Road. That would have been a very good spot to hurry up, quick, drop him off. The only thing that I don't like about that is that he still, would have had his shoes on, in my opinion. Just a lot to think about. Bo says, I bet KP told Sebastian he can't live with his dad. He doesn't want you, in my opinion. I bet she said something like that to him. I mean, I think that's what's it worries me because, even when you know that your parents love you and you know that, because I think Sebastian knows. I mean, I do. I think that he knows that Seth is looking for him wherever he is. I think he knows that. But I think that people are probably trying to tell him some shit like that. Like, nobody cares about you, nobody's looking for you. Or think about this. Ariel Castro, the guy that had the Cleveland Three, he was mocking them because, well, he mocked one of them because her mother wasn't looking for her. He mocked the other one because her mother was. And then he mocked the other one because her mother passed away. These people are disgusting. As Holly said earlier, sadists. They love getting off and get pleasure off of other people's pain. We see that on the internet streets all the time. I call it a trollgasm because they literally get off on it. Again, they're sick. Babs says, Lady, I have had the same feeling that he's somewhere in a facility, but I go back and forth. Yeah, Babs. Yeah, no pleas for him to be found, and then there's no trace of him leaving. Well, and that's why I wonder if there was a handoff after the Texas Roadhouse, because we still don't really know what time Katie got back, right? We still don't have like a definite time that she made it home. So was there time in between? Because I know it's about a 15-minute drive. So was there time in between for her to do that? If it took her 20 minutes to get home, we got a problem. If it took her any longer, because she said she went straight to the from Texas Roadhouse to the house, to their house. We also have a problem because there was multiple people who said that Cruella Bauer Socks was at Worsham's parked. And we know that Katie was driving around for about 30 minutes. So she could have had Sebastian in her vehicle and left, and that's how he got out. Because they're saying they have no proof, right? They have no proof because they can't see into her vehicle. But if she was to go, drop him off right quick, maybe she forgot his shoes, That's why that theory of a handoff makes more sense to me than after the Texas Roadhouse. And then we have the 3 a.m. lights, which I think that Chris from Mob Crew did a perfect reenactment of that scenario. And if Sebastian made it home, that's how he got out, in my opinion, or in the morning. Right? But those are the only two ways that I can see that happening. That's the only thing. Yeah. The only truth we know is Sebastian is not with Seth. The rest is BS. You know, we need to find him. Aw, thank you guys so much for hitting the thumbs up button. You guys are like almost 100% participation. I really, really, really appreciate that. You know, it is so corrupt, Babs. It is so corrupt. And that's another thing I went back and forth with. I'm like, are we doing the right thing by demonstrating outside? Are we doing the right thing? But now I know why. And now I know, now I know we were doing the right thing. And now I know why Seth was out there. Because he already knew all this. He knew they knew. He knew they knew, and since 2022, he knew that they knew. And they knew that they knew. They just didn't expect this, in my opinion. Bo says, Lady, can you clear this up? 5 CPS reports, 4 closed. We, in my opinion, are only hearing 2 closed in this report. Where's the other 2? Or am I being blonde? No, you're not. So the other 2 are not listed in this complaint or this filing. However, we also have some and this is just my opinion, but we also have some 15 John and Jane Does who are also being sued, but there's some, it seems that there's some incomplete information, right? They just don't know who they are yet, but they know that there's more people involved. So I think in this initial finding that that's why they're only naming the two. Um, and then also we have the fifth one that's still open, and Seth doesn't have that one. So his lawyers are probably not going to have that one because it's still open and sealed type, like even the lawyer can't access it. Seth's original lawyer, too, that got this, couldn't either. They got the other four. But then I also wonder, too, Bo, this is where I'm a little confused with that. Um, wouldn't the FAST 2.0 assessment, wouldn't that be a sixth open case, right? Or a sixth case? Because maybe they closed that one. Maybe they opened that one independently and then closed it out. Because again, Seth's team, his lawyers know about that. And it's mentioned in the filings. So, KP, CP, did you throw old camera in the bin? That's why it was so heavy. Upgraded so quick. Yeah. And I'm still not sure about the trash can being heavy, because the thing is like Bobby the neighbor was saying, the uh, garbage truck has an arm on it. So yeah, that part's a little bit confusing, but I think they could have been looking at the landfill for that. Electronics, you know. Yep, they're both master manipulators, Babs. They are. They are. They could sell ice cream to an Eskimo and continue to hurt the ones they have hurt. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And they all fell for it. They allowed for it, and they know that. And they knew they screwed it up. They knew they messed up from day one. In my opinion, law enforcement did. Catherine says, when Sebastian turns 18, would he age out of age out if he's in a facility, or do they stay until they're 21? So, Catherine, that's a really good question. Of the 29 schools that are affiliated with Bledsoe Youth Academy, there is about 8 to 10 of them that are facilities that keep children until they're 21, or keep the individual until they're 21. Those ones are typically court ordered facilities, but this is what worries me, is that what if Sebastian is sent to one of those facilities and it's not under a court order, and it's because he's within their system? Would they accept him and keep him there longer? you know that's why we got to find him. We got to find him where he is, because we got to find out where he is, because you know these schools have affiliations with other schools, so they could be moving him around. I mean, he could really be it's been a nightmare, but I mean, that's it is worrisome about these facilities. you know um so sad, so sad. Lori, I just, hey, nanny. Bab says the exchange beside the car with green hoodie, the yellow jacket guy, Katie looking all around the Texas Roadhouse, and Sebastian's affect, and he became very nervous. He did, didn't he? And he almost seemed like he was in trouble, obviously. Like nervous and his head down, and seemed like he was defeated. Yeah, absolutely, Bo. And I'm still learning too. So, I mean, as we find out more, I'll definitely make sure, you know, that we get a good understanding of it, you know. Yeah, let's not forget the best day ever with spaghetti pancakes and everything they did. Yeah, he was laughing, he was joking. He called family members just to brag. Yeah, what family members? The family members that you made him go with, you know? Yeah. And who knows if he was talking to, her mother. I do not know if Sebastian made it home or not, Janet. I don't. Oh, yeah, there's going to be more to come for sure, Bo. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh, some of them have a built-in scale. Okay, coffee, crime, and cats. Well, then that would explain that. I do know Aaron Cantrell went on Nancy Grace and told everybody that the trash cans were reported to be heavier, you know? So I wonder if they do have a scale on their trucks. So I know, I know. Good night, Babs. I'm on my way out myself. In my opinion, I believe Sebastian is in a facility in Clearwater, Florida. There's a very large organization that has facilities there. Nanny, the facilities that keep people until they're 21, the majority of them are here in Florida. So I think you're onto something too, Nanny. Yeah, lots more to come. Lots more to come, unfortunately. You know. Yeah. Well, guys, I appreciate you giving me your feedback and I appreciate you all chatting. And I'm sorry if I can't see it when I'm in the other screen. So, but I hope you guys sparked a lot of good ideas with each other. And I hope we can just find Sebastian. He needs to be found. He never deserved any of this. This is really horrible. And I hate this for him. We're going to go over these causes tomorrow. And we should be able to get this done in like two parts, today and then tomorrow. We should be able to finish it up. And again, I still want to go over more, but I kind of I figured I actually was going to go over some of the cases that were cited in the first bit of paperwork. Um, but I think for all of it to fit together, we should do it like how we're doing it. Um, and I am making a playlist. So, hey, Crybaby Walker says her demeanor in every aspect of this case points to guilty, in my opinion. Yes, absolutely. And Chris too. That's why he's so pissed off, right? I mean, that's why he always has a horrible attitude. He's defensive. He's attacking. He's denying. He's reversing the roles, right? Because I mean, in my opinion, he's guilty. Is he innocent until proven guilty? Sure, in a court of law, but in the court of public opinion, he's guilty as they come. And for good reason. We're listening to his statements. He's the one that admitted to all of this, right? Like it ain't no thing, like a chicken wing. Like it's no big deal, you know. And that's what's really hurtful and horrible. And it really makes me mad because we've known this whole time. But they gaslit, they were brainwashing us, trying to anyway. you know Thank you, Lori. Thank you so much. And I appreciate each and every one of you being here. I know this is really hard to listen to. We all love Sebastian. um we all just want to see him come home to his dad. um I'm not going to say it anymore though. With his mom can, eat my shorts. She makes me sick. She really makes me sick. um So, yeah, I just can't with her. Mm-mm. I'm infuriated with her. All right. Well, you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. I'm just not sure what time yet, but we are going to get into this paperwork and um, ain't no thing like a chicken wing with Sharon. You know, yeah, we're gonna finish that up, and then we're gonna continue on, get deep diving into some things, and I'm gonna give you guys some good references that's in the paperwork. I think we'll kind of do that next, but it might change as we go. Um, Aw, thank you, lover girl. I'm sorry I was getting so emotional, guys. It's just so hard. It's so hard. I hate this for Sebastian. You know, so yes, you guys have a great rest of your day or night, and I'll see you next time.